Good morning. Let's go ahead and get started. I have just two simple goals for this morning. Simple is good, right? Let me share those goals with you. I'm going to share my screen. Share. So looking at the new platform that STAR has this year, we changed to an Amazon web-based platform. There's so much that is the same, but it just looks different. So we're going to take a look at how do we get to the same reports, but it just looks different. And then what do I need to know now? And that's really what we're going to do today. So what's the same? It's the same reports. And what's the same from previous years? There's more than one way to get to the same reports, but it's easier to navigate. Same resources. What's different? There's a new look and a new way to navigate. So I'm going to show you, and I don't know if you've had a chance to get in and play with it yet, but this is what it looks like when you sign in. Have you had the opportunity to sign in and look at it as a teacher? So it looks different than it has in the past. Your students will be testing. Some of the students have already tested, and now you want to look at the data. You can get data through reading, early literacy, and math on the left-hand side of the screen, or you can go to reports on the right-hand side of the screen. You can go either place. But visually, it was meant to go to one place where it says reports. So we're going to go to where it says reports. You need a report, go to visually where it says reports and click. That's what we're going to do. We're going to click reports. We're looking for a STAR assessment report because that's what's on our plate right now. Our students are assessing with STAR. And this is what we get. Right now, we're doing screening, and the very first report that pops up is a STAR screening report. But notice some of the very same reports that you're already familiar with are here. STAR screening report, the STAR record book, instructional planning that we've done lots of work with in the past. When you want to sort through your students and you need some recommendations on some skills to target. And we can work more with that later. What do you need to know right now? The STAR screening report. I'm going to click on STAR screening report. And I happen to know that Teresa Heidi at Silverton Middle School has already tested a good portion of her students. And I can't show you names, but I can still show you what that report's going to look like. Because I have access to everybody's students and everybody's schools, my sorting is going to look a little bit different from yours. But here is where you would choose if you want to look at a math assessment or reading assessment, or for those of you who are doing early literacy, like if you're in a basic skills class and you want to do early literacy, you would choose what kind of report you want to look at. And I know that she has done reading, and so I would be choosing reading. And then here you would choose if you are at Robert Frost, and you might want to look at your Power Up class, or however you have your classes arranged. Here you would choose which group of students that you would be looking at. And obviously you wouldn't have as many choices as I have, but I've already chosen Teresa's students. And here you could choose like only your boys or only your girls if you wanted to sort that way. And then you would click update report, and it's going to filter whatever you've asked it to filter by. And then you're going to get this lovely color-coded report that you're used to, and it'll show you which of your students are at grade level, which of your students are on watch, which of your students are in need of intervention, and which of your students are in need of urgent intervention. So for those of you who are familiar with STAR reports, you know that green represents at grade level. So at grade level would be at the 40th percentile and above, which is represented here by the white line. Blue would mean they are on watch. They're close to being grade level, which is 25 to 39 percentile. And remembering that STAR assessment is used by 1/3 of the school districts in the entire country. So there's millions and millions and millions of data points here. So your students are being compared with lots of students across the country in their performance at grade level. Yellow is 10th percentile to 24th percentile. And remember, we're looking at reading right now. And red is 1 to 9th percentile in reading. Then below this, it will actually list the names of the students. And I'm just going to flash it because you can't actually see the names of the students. It will actually list the names of the students who are green at grade level, blue on watch, yellow in need of intervention, and red urgent intervention. So after you have finished with all of your students and you want to see where they rank with all the other 4th graders or all of the other 6th graders in the country, the screening report will give you those results. If you have a mixed group, for example, if Barb is looking at a class that has 3rd and 4th and 5th graders in it, she could group by grade if she wanted to. So this is how she could filter students up here. And each time you will be asked to filter which group of students you want to look at. And then you're given the report. You can create a PDF of it and save it and name it. So this is really the first report at the end of the testing that you want to look at. Any questions about the screening report? Anytime you want to go back to the home screen, you click the little house that takes you home, and we're back to home. We're going to click reports again. We're looking at assessment. During this testing season, if you want to keep track of who has tested and who hasn't tested, there is a report right here called STAR Test Activity Report that will actually list, you can screen by who hasn't tested or who has tested. And when you click on this report, you can actually ask it to show all students, show students who have tested, or show students who haven't tested. So for instance, Barb, if you wanted to check for all 5th grade students who have not yet tested, you know, like at the end of this week, and you're assuming that most students have tested, you want to see who hasn't tested yet, you could run this report. So you could change it to Robert Frost, 5th grade students, show students who haven't tested yet, run a report, and it'll list all the students who have not yet tested. I believe this testing window has been extended all the way to Thanksgiving, just giving us the opportunity to get an assessment on every single student, knowing that there are connectivity issues and you know, all the other possible issues that we're running into. But the STAR test activity report will help each of you to keep track of which students have tested and which ones have not. But every report that you run, it's going to ask you, which one are you looking at? Are you looking at a math test, a reading test, an early literacy test? And so you'll choose. I want to see if all of the math students at, let's say, Robert Frost, and I would have to choose like all the 5th grade teachers, and I don't remember who all the 5th grade teachers are. Barb would know, and so she would check 5th grade teachers and the students, and then it would choose those students and apply, and show the students with no completed test. And of course, this is probably going to show a bunch of kids right now because of students who have not yet tested. Any questions on that one? So those are the 2 primary reports that you need to know right now. Screening, how are my kids doing? And who has tested, who hasn't tested? And how to navigate these new reports. The other big one that we've talked about forever and ever and ever in this district is the growth report. And because we have just really started testing, we don't have much data right now. And because we weren't able to test at the end of the year, and right now it is not permitting me to sort for our winter scores. Any of the growth reports that I've seen for any of the students who have tested so far, it's going back to the beginning of last year. So any of the growth that we're seeing is from the beginning of last year to the beginning of this year. And well, I'm going to switch back to my PowerPoint and see if I can explain this. This is what a growth report looks like right now. Names, of course, on the left. It will just tell you if a student has experienced low growth and if they are currently in a low percentile. It will give you a student growth percentile. It will show you which dates it's using to figure the SGP. It's going to show you how much time the student spent taking the test. Now, this is pretty important. If a student took 5 minutes to take a test, that's important information. You know that they didn't take the test seriously, and I would ask the student to take it over again. So if when the student took the test last Friday, the student took the test last week, 10, 15, 20. If this time right here showed that they did it in like 5 minutes and they had a really poor score, I would probably ask them to take it over again. It should take them 20, 25, 30 minutes to take it. If they took it in 5 minutes and they scored in the 5th percentile, I would probably ask them to take it over again. This shows you their color, their on grade level, their on watch, urgent intervention, grade equivalency score, percentile rank. Where does, for instance, this student rank with the rest of the, I think these are 6th graders. This student is in the 74th percentile with the other 6th graders in the country. Can you see where my arrow is? Or this student is in the 32nd percentile, the rest of the students in the country. Or oops, this student is in the 1st percentile, need of urgent intervention with the rest of the students, the rest of the 6th graders in the country.
I have a question on test retakes.
Yes.
Is it still the same where the student, if they, for instance, if they hurry through the test and they don't do well, do they have to take it that same day for that score to be replaced with their retake score?
Yes. If they take it that same day, it will replace the test that they did poorly on.
Okay.
If you don't catch it until the next day, then it will still be there. It will still count. Oh, it will still show up. People always ask me what the NCE is, and I have never encountered any school that ever uses the NCE. I understand that some special ed reports ask for an NCE for some students, but I've never encountered a school that ever uses the NCE, but I've never been able to figure out how to filter that score out, so I can't even explain it. IRL is instructional reading level. At what level is this student able to receive instruction? Instructional reading level. So this student, for example, who is at the 32nd percentile as a 6th grader, is comfortable receiving instruction at a 4th grade, 8th grade, or 4th grade, 8th month instructional reading level. So in other words, instructional reading needs to be differentiated to about the beginning 5th grade level. In theory, for those of you who understand SGP, I ought to be able to filter SGP from our winter scores last year to fall this year. I've not been able to make that happen yet. Maybe as we get some more data, but right now it's going from last fall to this fall. And as we start getting more data, hopefully we'll be able to do some comparison and be able to use that data to help us to make instructional decisions on how our students are doing. And of course, we're doing the very best we can for our students, given the circumstances. But this is what the new growth reports look like. Does everybody understand how SGP is figured? I'm assuming everybody's been through the training for SGP or not?
Why don't you go over it again?
Okay, so percentile rank is all, these are sixth graders, all sixth graders being compared with all sixth graders. Student growth percentile, then, students are only compared with their academic peers. So for example, let's take, I'm going to take this student who at the beginning of last year was at the 52nd percentile. So reading at grade level. And now at the beginning of this school year is at the 74th percentile. So this student is only going to be compared not with all sixth graders when it comes to SGP, but this student is only being compared to other sixth graders who began last school year at the 52nd percentile. So this particular student is not being compared with students who were blue or yellow or red, or students who were in the 90th percentile or the 80th percentile. So this student is only being compared with other sixth graders who are at the same academic functioning level as this other sixth grader. And when this sixth grader was being compared with other sixth graders who at the beginning of last year were functioning at the 52nd percentile, how much did other sixth graders who were functioning at the 52nd percentile, how much did they grow? Comparing this student to those other students, this one grew a whole bunch. This one grew, so 1 year of growth, this student would still be about still in the 50-something percentile, but this one is now in the 74th percentile. This student has been doing a lot of reading, a lot of studying. There's been some real growing going on in this student's life, regardless of COVID. Yay, good job. Good job. So this student has grown, has had high growth compared to other sixth graders who are functioning at this same academic performance level. But now let's look at this student. Here's another student who was functioning at a really, really high level and now is being compared to other students who were functioning at a really, really high academic level.
Um,
99th percentile, 99th percentile, now is at the 94th percentile, which is still a really high grade, a really high percentile, but compared with other students, other sixth grade students who are functioning at this level, the student didn't grow very much. And some teachers will say, well, he didn't, there isn't very far to grow when you're at the 99th percentile. But remember, this student is only being compared to other sixth graders who are in that high percentile range. And so there are other sixth grade students who are at the 99th percentile who are growing at a 50th, 60th, 70th, 80th, 90th SGP. So this particular student did not grow very much compared to other 6th grade students at this level. Or we could look at this student who was at the beginning of last year in need of intervention because they were at a 22nd percentile. But beginning of this school year, back up to the 32nd, showing that they have had good growth. Good job. Who's ever working with this student, good job. Good growth. Anything over 65 is showing more than a year's worth of growth. This student has had more than a year's worth of growth. This student has had more than a year's worth of growth. This student has had a year's worth of growth. 35 to 65 is a year's worth of growth. Anything below 35, less than a year's worth of growth, less than a year's worth of growth, less than a year's worth of growth. We can see that some students are still growing. Yay, yay. Other students are in need of more growth. Now, how do we do that? More discussion needed. Any questions on SGP and the growth report? Are there any primary teachers on board with us? K-1-2 teachers? I'm just going to go ahead and mention this because there will be people viewing this later. There's a new way to screen the growth report. When a student starts with early literacy and then graduates into STAR reading, there has never been a way to mesh the early literacy reports with the STAR reading reports, and now there is. And this is a huge deal for 1st and 2nd grade teachers because it's always been comparing apples to oranges because they're really 2 different tests. And now the psychometricians have found a way to take the results of the STAR early literacy scores and synthesize them with the STAR reading scores and come up with a growth score for students. This is huge for those primary teachers. So knowing that when you are screening for your growth reports at the end of the year, primary teachers, you can actually select not just early literacy, not just reading, you can actually select early literacy and reading, and it will synthesize the results of both tests and give you one growth report. That was all I wanted to cover today. That's enough. You have so much on your plates. And those are the 3 primary reports that you need to know for now. Other STAR questions, shoot me emails.
We have a couple of questions in the chat. Allison has a question about test retakes. I don't know if that's already been answered.
Yeah, that was answered already. Thank you.
Okay. And Trina Hobson has a question. What are the EA login credentials? Trina, you have access to your mic if you want to speak yourself.
And
Those were really my only questions, are when I go into Renaissance Learning, what is my password? What is my username?
And we don't have, since it's single sign-on now, we don't have that anymore.
Okay.
And if you can't sign in, we were just talking with Tammy about that, you should be able to. So whoever your testing coordinator is in the building can give you that access. So talk to Greg.
I will do that.
Because if you are administering the test, you should be able to, because with the single sign-on now, the kids don't need it, nor do you need the username and the password anymore. You just class link, there it is. Simple.
Okay.
Just, we used to have to go into users and get all of our kids' passwords and, usernames and passwords. We don't even need that anymore. So if you don't have access, talk to Greg, because if you're administering the test, you need access, and he can give you that. He's got the power.
Okay.
And he knows how to do it.
I have a question. Talking about that, it reminded me of, when we were in the classroom, we used to have to put in what was it? We'd have to be the admin and we'd have to put a code in. And do we still do that when we're doing this test?
If the
Yes.
Okay.
student needs to stop the test at some point to finish it at another time, the password is still admin.
Okay.
And they'll still need that to restart the test. And then remembering that they need to finish it within 8 days. So I checked, and the standard password across the district so far, unless somebody has changed it within a building, but it's still admin.
Okay. And my other question is, we thought that this training was supposed to be like, what are the online protocols for doing the testing? But it turned out not to be. And so do we have a recording of the first one, the 101, that we could watch?
That was
last week. Yeah.
And Maddie,
Shraver.
access to that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was answering an email. Can you repeat that?
Do you have access to the last week's training that you did, the 101?
Yeah, let me find it on YouTube real quick and I'll post it in the chat.
Okay, awesome.
So there are the instructions that Renaissance sent out that actually gives you a nice little dialogue, a little script to read as you're starting the testing with students. And it's really does help with testing fidelity. And with, the single sign-on, it's really easy. And kids have taken the test before, so it makes it pretty simple. Barb, you had a question?
Well, I just was going to offer, if Tammy needs that, how to administer it remotely, I can forward that to her if she
Oh,
would.
that would be awesome. Thank you, Barb. Because I don't recall getting anything, and I'll share it with my whole team. So.
May I get that email also, please?
Sure. Is this Trina?
This is Trina. Thank you. I know I haven't received it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for the good of the order? And Aisha, if you want to stay on after we're done recording, since your building is more complicated than the rest of them, we can talk a little bit more.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank
The
you.
best to all of you. Stay safe, stay well.
Okay, you too, thanks.
Bye.